I have loved sports my entire life, and I always wanted some career in sports. I stand on the shoulders of so many incredible pioneers who paved the way before me. Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run record in 1974, and he did it with his own fans threatening his life. In the 70s, this man still was facing death threats, and his family was still had to be protected because people felt like the beloved Babe Ruth could not have his sacred record broken by this black man. We had believed as a country that we had moved past some of these typical tropes when it came to breaking down racial barriers. And this man was facing the kind of discrimination that Jackie Robinson was facing 20 years before. He was a great examination to all of us. While we felt like we had come a long way in baseball, we had a long way to go. It's time to talk about the Queen, Robin Roberts, the first Black SportsCenter anchor. I remember watching her and always wanting to do something in sports, but never knowing what that looked like. Representation is important, and until you see it, you never know if it's absolutely possible. To see this Southern girl go from the Army base in Tuskegee, Alabama, to hosting Good Morning America, to being the face of morning television, it's been incredibly inspiring for all of us that know that no matter where we come from and no matter what we look like, we can, if we put in the hard work, be like a Robin Roberts, because we'll never be her. There is only one. Tony Dungy is the epitome of understanding your charge in life and owning it and embracing it. Tony Dungy is the first Black coach to win a Super Bowl. Tony Dungy has done so much work mentoring inside of football and outside of football as well. If not for him, there would not be the pipeline that you currently have of inspired young head coaches making their way into the NFL. When you look on paper and say, oh, Tony Dungy is the first Black head coach to win the Super Bowl, you want the year next to that to have been maybe like 1970. It was 2006. All of these things that we celebrate are incredibly bittersweet because it feels like we shouldn't be celebrating trailblazers in the 2000s, and yet here we are. So I think that Tony Dungy breaking down that barrier was incredible, but there's still a lot of work to do. Misty Copeland is my woman crush every day. So I grew up a ballerina, and I was the only brown girl in all of my ballet classes. And I think for so long, the picture of a ballerina, wafy, skinny, long, leggy blonde with a little perfect blonde bun on top of her head. And that's kind of what I always imagined a ballerina was. And I remember a few days ago seeing this picture of this little ballet troupe that were so inspired by Misty Copeland that they all joined ballet. Representation. We have to be influenced by people that look like us so that we know it is possible, and Misty Copeland has opened up the world. For her to be the principal dancer at the American Ballet Theater, I mean, that's a huge, huge deal. It's important to recognize that there are young brown men and women right now doing the work so that 20 and 30 years from now, they'll be reading about the Misty Copelands. No one wants to be the Black ballerina, but people like Misty Copeland are so inspiring even to me. She's going to be that next thing for these young girls. She's going to be who Robin Roberts was to me for an entire generation of dancers. Althea Gibson was the first Black woman to win the US Open, the French Open, and Wimbledon singles titles. She was a sharecropper's daughter who in the 50s broke down so many incredible barriers. And the thing is that she was mistreated at every single turn. She didn't earn any money playing tennis. It's why she had to walk away. She was the #1 tennis player in the world. She was controversial because she had the audacity to want to pervade what at the time was a waspy country club sport. She knew she was good, she had the chops, and she picked tennis. And despite the fact that they never picked her, she just kept winning. She was undeniable and an undeniable force. And every time they tried to prevent her from going to tournaments because of her color, and every time she had to be excluded from going into locker rooms because women didn't want to share locker rooms with her because she was Black, what did she do? She turned it to the courts and she just kept dominating that sport. If I could say anything to Althea Gibson, I would say thank you for your grit. Thank you for your determination. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you, Althea Gibson, for being the picture of perseverance.